Yeah, welcome in. Welcome back to another episode of the Format Podcast. This is unusual that I'm doing a live episode here on a Wednesday afternoon, but figured I would go ahead and get this one in and see what type of love we get for that. And I got a very special guest joining me today. It's going to be Mel from the Man Down Sports Podcast. So definitely looking forward to getting into some hoops talk with him. But before we do that, you know what time it is. If you're here on YouTube and you haven't already, please make sure you go ahead, click that like, that subscribe, that notification bell. Make sure you're kept up to date whenever we drop new content on the channel. If you want the audio-only version of the podcast, open up your audio podcast platform, hit the search bar, type in The Format Podcast, and we should come right up. If you're enjoying the content, make sure you give us that like, that 5-star review, and drop a comment. All that stuff helps us rise in the algorithm, helps us find more sports fans, helps more sports fans find us. And finally, make sure you write it down, put it in your phone, set an alarm, do whatever you got to do to remember. Saturday nights at 7 p.m. we are live here on the Format Podcast, and we'll give you the opportunity to call in, talk to us, get at me. I love it. I can't wait. All right. So as I said, Man Down Mel. So with no further ado, let's get it. Mel, what's going on?
There we go. What's up?
All right. So, man, well, thanks again for coming on. I'm glad to have you as always. Going to talk some hoops. I know that's your thing. So,
Yep.
let's make it happen. So first we're going to start off with one of the most dangerous, I think, and one of the most exciting teams in the NBA right now. Obviously, we know that the NBA is heading rapidly towards the play-in, which is next Tuesday, I believe.
Yeah,
and then
next week.
Yep. And then following that, the NBA playoffs are going to start in full. So we see. I tell you what, I think the Western Conference is going to be an absolute bloodbath, man. That one is tough. And one of the teams playing the best in the league right now, even though they don't have one of the best overall records, I think 49-30, is the Dallas Mavericks. They look like they're finally figuring out how to get their two superstars playing together. So that's the first one I want to get your thoughts on, Mel, is Luka and Kyrie, and of course their supporting cast. And I think I read somewhere that the defense has stepped up a lot lately in the last month or so. They're still about 20th overall in the league, but in I think total defense, but recently the defense has been playing a lot better. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that, especially those two superstars, and how you think they've kind of come to meld their games together and have more success.
Well, so the whole season I've been talking about Luka doing a little bit less so his team can do more, and then also stepping it up on the defensive end. And at times you'll see that happens, and when that happens, they play phenomenal basketball. And Luka, I mean, and I'm not saying do less, like, not be himself. I'm saying, like, if you're going to play point guard and you have an automatic bucket in Kyrie Irving, you can't be doing all the scoring and all the facilitating and then expect Kyrie Irving to figure out how to get 25 to 30 points, right? You have to let Kyrie get unleashed and let him get in his bag, because that's what he's there for. And since Luka is going to be facilitating everything, then you have to primarily do that. And as the point guard, you have to pick your spots when you're going to get your 25 and 30, because that's what a point guard is supposed to do. So when they at their best, it's two things either going on. Either Kyrie is being 100% himself and Luka is facilitating and picking his spots, or they both just get super hot and it don't matter. And when they're super hot, it don't matter what the balance is. They can go off for 35 apiece.
Right.
So that's what it looks like. So it's been good to watch. Luka's defense has actually picked up a little bit. So I think that's making all the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. But also the other thing I look at, I think post All-Star break, Kyrie has picked up his scoring. He was around 24 prior to the All-Star break. Then post All-Star break, he got up to, I think, 26. And then during the month of Ramadan, which if you're not familiar as a viewer or listener, it is a holy month for Muslims. And during that time, they fast and engage in a lot of prayer and study of the Holy Quran, which is the holy book, and don't eat or drink from sunrise to sunset for about a 30-day period. And oddly enough, during this period, Kyrie, all his numbers have spiked. He's up to like 28 points per game. I want to say like 7.5 assists. So he's really taking it to the next level during that period, which is very spiritual and essential to him as a Muslim. And so that in conjunction with Luka doing his thing, because it's odd. You just made the point that maybe Luka could step back a little bit, but at least from the numbers, it doesn't look like he's particularly stepped back. It just looks as if he has, to the point you made, done a better job of really allowing Kyrie to cook and do his thing, and he's kind of figured out how to work within that.
Yeah, so I mean, and you can go back to any of my videos that I made at the beginning of the year. I always said the numbers that Luka is getting, they're going to come. He's going to get those numbers. Mm-hmm. It's just, are you gonna force it and then make your team, play in a phone booth, whatever, not free, but you're free. You're still going to get the same numbers that if you, or are you gonna, like I said, let Kyrie do his thing and you as the point guard and the facilitator find your spots to get your point. You're still going to get the points. Mm-hmm. He's still going to get 25 to 30 points a game, whether he force it or not force it. Right. So that's why I was saying, I was like, man, he might as well just submit himself to being the point guard and facilitator and let Kyrie be the primary scorer, but he's still going to get his numbers though. So I mean, numbers ain't gonna change because Luka's the focal point, and he got the green light and he can decide if he wants to shoot or pass at any time. So I don't think the numbers ever look different.
Right. So yeah, I'm watching this and I'm like, dang, Luka is still getting his. But okay, we know that Luka is dangerous and we know that Kyrie is dangerous. But before I move on to that, let me say this. I remember a couple of years ago, I first heard the nickname Luka Legend. And I took offense to that because I'm a big Larry Bird fan. He's probably my second or third favorite player of all time. And I've been a Boston Celtics fan since I was a kid. And so my first thing was, well, Luka hasn't done enough to have earned that nickname. But the more I watch him play, and I don't just think it's because he's a white player with skills, just the similarities are kind of eerie. Like he can really pass the ball. He can somehow get to his spot wherever that is on the floor, and no one has figured out how to stop him from doing that yet, even though he's not, uber athletic or quick or what have you. I'm watching and I'm like, there is some resemblance to Bird here. Like he just finds a way to get shots off and make tough shots and make really good passes, and not the typical modern NBA pass, just drive and kick. Like he's a really good interior passer. He seems to have really outstanding court vision. And of course, we know that he's an outstanding rebounder. And obviously, rebounding in this day and age is kind of different than, when Bird and them were playing. But I'm watching it. I'm like, man, maybe there is some similarity. Now, that said, he's got to do some winning. He's got to get some hardware. We know Bird had the 3 straight MVPs, 84 to 87. He had the 3 straight MVPs. And of course, he's a 3-time champ. So Luka's got a long way to go in terms of the winning before he can really kind of cement that comparison. But what do you think of that comparison? Or do you think it's just lazy because, people saw 2 white guys who are kind of slow who can really play all around?
I think it's both. I think it's lazy, because probably the baddest white man we've seen in the NBA is Bird, and he won. So when we see another wing player that, it's kind of like when Harold Miner and Stackhouse and all these guys came in and they immediately got Jordan comparisons just because they was black and athletic and around 6'5" to 6'6" in size and height. They're doing the same thing with Larry, and it's no comparison at all. I don't even think it's close. Now Luka is very good, but I've retired myself from making those comparisons with any player in that era with this era, because what was required of you as a superstar back then was both ends of the floor, defense and offense, toughness and winning before you actually got a name like Larry Legend, right? Now all you got to do is do one thing that Bird does, or get the stat similar to what Bird had, without the defense, without the winning, without the resiliency and all of that stuff. That's all you got to do. Just give me one similarity and be white, and we'll compare you to Bird, or give me one similarity and be black, and we'll compare you to Michael Jordan. It's really bad for people to do that. Now, I will say this: the reason why I don't have a lot of I don't compare this era to anything before this era is because the NBA has admitted that, hey, look, we're all about scoring, and we're gonna fix the 2K slider, so defense is not that much of a factor.
Right.
so we can get more offense. So you can't use stats to compare a player because these
Right.
stats are inflated on purpose.
Yeah.
And you can't use your eyes to do it because defense is purposely not existing. And you can just come and do whatever you want, get in your bag and do whatever because the defense is at a handicap. So yeah, I don't. And then these guys don't be winning like that. So yeah, I don't compare Luka to Larry at all.
So I don't say that. I don't compare them in saying that I think he is Larry or close to him, but I do see, like I said, the small similarities, like how he can get to a spot and how he can get those tough shots off and how he's a really good interior passer. And again, different era, different defensive rules and all that. And I totally get that. I'm one of the biggest proponents of that thing that you just said. But the more I watch, I see a little bit. Again, I would never have given him that nickname because that nickname means something, and you got to do a lot more to be able to wear a nickname like that. But moving on from just Luka and Kyrie, who do you think are maybe some X factors for this Dallas team to maybe make a run and be dangerous in the playoffs? Because I think the third leading scorer is Tim Hardaway Jr. at about 14 a game. And, we know he can shoot it and he's got some quickness, but is there an X factor maybe that people aren't accounting for?
Yeah, the new additions after the trade deadline is Gafford and is PJ Washington from Charlotte. They've become more of a factor than Tim Hardaway was. And, he's still probably on paper the third leading scorer. But I see what PJ Washington is out there doing. I think he's in the starting lineup, and his corner three and his what he does on the defensive end and his hustle and all that stuff, that's gonna make him very important. Now they do go to a small ball lineup where they don't have Lively or Gafford out there, so Gafford is gonna be early on very important, or depending on what team they play against. If they got a big, he's gonna be important. But they really like that small ball lineup late. So that kind of takes away from the impact that Gafford could make all game. But when he's on the floor, his offensive rebounding, his presence in the paint, whenever he do get the ball with the ability to score, his shot blocking at the rim, and then you get to run the same offense with Lively or Gafford on the floor. And I think what they was looking at earlier this season when Lively go out of the game, there was a drop off offensively because they didn't have that size, and then definitely the same thing defensively. So they're big factors. I think Kleber is starting to get 100% healthy, and they really love Kleber as a defensive player.
Yeah,
he's gonna be great. He's not knocking down a three like he used to where he was a real threat, but he's still somebody you got to guard out there, man. So yeah, all their role players are gonna be huge factors, and of course Luka, if he continues to trust the process and say less of me is actually going to be more of the team, then he becomes part of it as well as far as being a factor.
What I'm also trying to figure out is who I think would be the best matchup for them in the playoffs for them to have success, get out of that first round. Because like we said, the Western Conference playoffs, man, they're going to be tough. And I'm trying to think, what's the best matchup? Where can they have the most success? Obviously, we know Denver has that size, and they're the champs, and they know what it takes to win now. So I'm not really concerned about them. What do you think would be the best matchup for them?
The best matchup is any player that's leading a team or any player that the NBA is not actively marketing. So if he faces, but so seriously, the top players that the NBA is marketing is Jokic and Luka.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as Luka doesn't see Denver, then the NBA won't have to make a decision on who's going to get the favor of the whistle. But if he sees Phoenix, which he won't see them in the first round, but anytime they see Phoenix in the playoffs, advantage Dallas because they have Luka. Mm-hmm. If he sees Minnesota, advantage Dallas because he has Luka. They're going to prefer Luka over Ant-Man. And OKC might be the worst matchup for them because even though they might favor Luka over SGA, OKC can overcome that. Sacramento Kings, they're going to favor Luka. And they might have an issue with the Warriors or the Lakers. So Steph, LeBron, Jokic are the ones Dallas don't want to see because it won't be a clear cut. Oh, Luka's go get the favor.
So I don't know if I like the Minnesota matchup for them because I get your point about Luka being more heavily marketed than Anthony Edwards, but how do you that Minnesota team is still what, number 1 or number 2 defensively in the league, and so it would take a lot. It would take a lot to kind of play around with that, and so the question is, can Dallas overcome that?
Yes. With the help of Vegas and the NBA, yes. How you think they overcame Phoenix when they was number 1 in the West?
Okay.
3-4 years ago.
Was that in the bubble when they went to?
Nah. That was the Scott Foster special against CP3.
Okay, there you go.
That was they gave him. I want to say they gave him game 5 and 6, and it was a Scott Foster special because they was up on him. I want to say they was up on him. Was they up on him 3-1 maybe? I don't know. 2-1 or 3-1, and Scott Foster. Yeah, and then Scott Foster gifted them a couple of games, and then it got to a game 7, and Dallas couldn't miss.
Well, there you go.
So I'm telling you, man. Look, it's some weird stuff. It's just weird. Like last night when Phoenix was playing the Clippers, they came out flat. Everybody missed everything. I looked in the first quarter, KD was 0 for 5, Booker was 0 for 5, Bill was 0 for 5, and it was down by 34 points in the first quarter. You know what went on to happen after that? I think the NBA was like, man, this game is over. Let's at least make it look interesting so we don't lose all the ratings. And Phoenix went on to shoot about 40 free throws to 9 for the Clippers.
So
they got the game within 9 points in the fourth quarter.
Right. And then also, so I just had somebody text me that I know saying that you're on conspiracy theories. And so what I can say is we can point to multiple times where this stuff has happened. We can point to a couple of years ago in the playoffs, 2 years ago, with Golden State and LA, and LA shot like an extraordinarily larger number of free throws in that series. So we know that they got the benefit of the whistle in that situation. I'm not gonna go crazy over it, but we know in the 2016 the league gift wrapped that for LeBron in Cleveland with the BS Draymond suspension. So it's not like we haven't seen this stuff happen before. So I think that's the other part of it.
Yeah, and we just got to admit it. I mean, this is a business, and we can't get mad at how they run their business. Just like you can't get mad who Vince McMahon decides to go be the champion in the WWE. Is their business. Like, seriously, do we think the commissioner is having all these meetings and sitting down talking about how can we make the basketball more realistic, or is he sitting down talking about how we gonna make this bottom line be more than it was last year? Right. Like, what are our projections? Oh man, we got this team that brings in this much money, but if we let them play real ball, they're probably not going to make it. Let's help them out a little bit because they bring too much money. Like as a businessman, 30 owners, 32 owners, a commissioner, do you really think that they really care about fairness and realness and reality, or are they caring about the freaking money?
Well, we know they care about the money. I'm not going to go as far as to say they fix the games, but I think manipulate. They may do what's in their best interest, and to your point, the best interest of the bottom line, because at the end of the day, you're right, it is a business, and being a great television product is key. And why? Because of the ad revenue and if you get somebody that blows somebody out, then you got to pay make goods and all that. So it's in the best interest to have a compelling 7-game series, but yet to have who you want to advance. So
correct. And the last thing I say about that, Bruce, because I know we don't want to go off on that, on that walk, right? But the last thing I say is if we don't acknowledge that is, first of all, very possible and very probable that they're doing it like that on occasions, then if we're not able to admit that, then we're thinking that all of those millionaires and billionaires are leaving the entire NBA business up to chance, right? And we know that's not true. Not even reality TV is scripted. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you gotta, like, it might be a real fight, but we made y'all come to that ice cream shop to have a meeting knowing that it was gonna be a fight. You get what I'm saying? Like, we put y'all there. Y'all, the animosity is real, but we put y'all there because we knew it was going to result in the fight. So you're doing what you can do to make sure you pull the attention or the money that you want to pull. That's absolutely happening. No businessman is paying the commissioner that much money to just sit back and say, well, let them play, and whatever they decide happen on the court is what happens. No, they're dictating everything. Hey, call the game this way, this game. Call the game this way. That's why the referees are having meetings before every game, before every series, and they're watching film and saying, "Oh man, we can call that." They're manipulating everything according to the outcome that they want. And then Vegas is involved. Vegas won't get involved in something that is going to be up to chance, because Vegas is supposed to win every single time.
The house always wins.
Yeah. So if Vegas is involved, you already know it's fixed.
Well, the only place I'll push back on that is Vegas involved with the NFL as well. The NFL makes way more money than the NBA does. They're by far the number one most popular sport in the country. And I think it would not be a fair assumption at all to say that the NFL is manipulating results. I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Well, they leaving it up to chance then. That mean, because that's the only other option. Either these prominent businessmen are saying, I'm buying this franchise, I'm spending money on this, and we just go leave everything up to chance.
All right.
You wouldn't even do that with your podcast. You wouldn't say, hey, look, hey, look, just come up with whatever topic you want to come up with, give it to me, and I just jump on there and talk. And you wouldn't even do that. Like, you're deciding everything according to what the outcome you want.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right, what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna go ahead and open up the phone lines. I'm gonna leave it open just for a quick minute. Don't have a whole lot of people in the chat, but if you want to go ahead and give us a call, you can call in at 904-219-8264, 904-219-8264. You got anything from me and Mel on the Dallas Mavericks or his thoughts on the NBA and how it chooses to handle the best outcomes of the playoffs? I'd love to hear from you on that.
Let me share this to my community. Share. All right, cool. I just shared it in my community.
Appreciate you. All right, so what I'm going to do here, looks like we don't have any calls on that topic. That's cool. So I'm going to go ahead and move to the next one, and that is Draymond Green. And man, this guy is something else, right? So obviously we know Draymond Green has a podcast, the Draymond Green Show, and that's on the Volume Podcast Network, and he tends to have a lot of interesting things to say. In his most recent episode, he had his longtime teammate Klay Thompson on there, and he made some comments that both made me and Mel kind of confused on where he was going or what he was trying to say. So let's go ahead and we're going to listen to that, and then we'll come back and we'll share our thoughts on it.
I think for me personally, when these things happen, like, the thing that I think about the most is you and Steph. It's like, fuck, I can't help those guys. Like, I can't be out there with them. Like, that's all I care to do. It's like, be out there with you guys, set screens, defend, find you guys like with great passes to get y'all shots. But more importantly, just be out there with my brothers, like competing with the guys that I've competed with my entire NBA career for the last 12 years, won championships with. And I'm a work in progress and continuing to working to better myself.
Yep.
But I appreciate you and Steph, for always sticking with me, being right by my side no matter what.
Oh, yeah.
That brotherhood I don't take for granted at all.
All right, so this was kind of a long segment on his podcast, and basically, I I didn't want to play the whole thing because it would probably taken about 6 or 7 minutes. But the point was, this was him, and he said to Clay, "I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to give me a brutally honest answer. Be brutally honest with me. I've never asked this question before." So he says, when I get suspended or these things happen, how does that make you feel? And Klay Thompson was like, we kind of understand that that's you and you play with a lot of heart and you're the heart and soul of this team. But he says that it's tough on us because he says that it's tough. What's up, G? Nice to see you in here, man. Yeah, Kyrie is a terror. You missed that segment, bro. But anyway, so Klay says it's tough on us because, we know that it kind of puts a little bit more wind in the sails of the opposite team, and we don't have everything that we have when you're not on the floor. And so obviously you heard Draymond's commentary, and I was real when I heard that. I was like, appreciate you, Sneed, appreciate you. So yeah, when I heard that, I was like, man, what is wrong with this dude? If you're so concerned about what it is when you're not on the floor and how that hurts your team and how you can't help your guys and this, that, and the third, why do you keep doing this stuff? There's the old saying, and Mandel knows this, Mel knows this. Obviously, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. So you're 12 years into your career in the league, and you're talking about, well, I'm still trying to work on myself, and I'm still trying to get better. And okay, kudos to you, because I guess theoretically at any age you can continue to improve, but you keep doing the same stuff, which is why, like, I really don't get it. You keep doing the same stuff, but then you come out here on your show and you kicking this nonsense. Nobody believes you, Draymond. Nobody believes you. Like, well, the best indicator of real regret is a change in behavior. Am I right, Mel?
I agree 100%.
Yeah,
I agree 100%.
Yeah, you just out here talking it. Nobody believes you, because in about a couple weeks or a month, you're going to do something else stupid if your team is still playing, and you're probably going to cost them a game, or you're going to cost them a series, or worse. You've already caused the Golden State Warriors a championship with your I'm not going to say that, with your behavior. You know what I'm saying? I mean, real talk. I mean, don't get me wrong. We know that the league blessed LeBron and the Cavs in 2016, but at the same time, two things can be true. If you weren't acting like an idiot, right? If you hadn't gotten all those texts racked up, you couldn't have gotten suspended when that finally happened. So it's just ridiculous, and it's real irritating to hear you go on the show and you try to, you try to talk the good talk and make people believe that what you're saying actually makes sense. Mel, go ahead, man.
So this is my first thoughts, right? As soon as I seen it. So his last suspension his last incident was what, months ago, a month, maybe 2 months or something like that. And
yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, so it's been a while. Mm-hmm. And you really want us to believe that the conversation you had with Steph or Clay about you being kicked out so many times and them needing you and you missing games because you can't control your emotions has never been discussed until you invited Clay on the podcast. And right, and even if it's true that you haven't discussed any of this with Steph and Clay, why the hell is that for public consumption? Why bring him on a podcast to throw him on the spot to ask him that? And then when you heard Clay responding with his answer, he took a while before he actually said what he said. He didn't look at Draymond while he was talking. He was looking down most of the time, and he wasn't confident in what he was saying. Some people might take that as he was emotional with it because it was his brother. But I really looked at it like, man, I'm just about to come out and say the most PC thing that everybody in the media has already said. They need Draymond, they need him, blah blah blah. I don't think he believed all that stuff, man. What he really wanted to say, he didn't say.
Yeah,
right. I honestly believe it. But yeah, they all came in the league around the same time. They're close, teammates or whatnot. But they got to be tired of that BS. They got to be.
Yeah, and I mean, think about, to your point, if Steve Kerr has gotten into it with Draymond and talked to him about it, and Bob Myers and the league and everybody, like, to your point, I hadn't even considered that angle. There's no way that him and Clay and Steph hadn't had these discussions already. And you talking about, well, just be brutally honest with me because we've never had this. Like, come on, man, come on.
I can't believe that active players are selling out for clicks on their podcast. I'm like, come on, man. I get if you retire and you're like, hey, I want to build this platform, and you sell out and be like, man, I'm like Jeff Teague. He's retired and he's telling funny stories, great stories. We love to hear. But while you're an active player, I just don't understand why you're like, you're supposed to be sold out for your active team right now and your teammates. You can't be split between I'm 100% in on this team, but I'm also 100% in on building this platform. So I know I got to say things that's good for clicks, and that's what Draymond is doing. He's learned the content creation game, and he knows. Oh man, he saved that juicy information for Clay coming on the podcast,
right?
Or he actually didn't, and they really did talk about it, but he still wanted to put it on the podcast for content. Either way, it's crazy.
Absolutely. Great point, G. Great point. And I think I heard someone else say, like, if if Draymond played, in the previous era, you think he's acting like this with an Anthony Mason or Charles Oakley or these guys in the Dale Davis and these guys? Come on, man. Karl Malone. Nah, he wouldn't be tough at all.
However he acted at Michigan State is what I would have seen him acting like in the environment like the 90s. He would, whatever he did in Michigan State, that's the behavior he would have had in the 90s.
Well, I think he was a tough player in Michigan State, but I don't think he ever was a goon like this. Izzo wasn't on.
That's what I'm saying. He would have been on his best behavior, just like he was at Michigan State. He knows how to act, and he definitely was on his best behavior when he tried to play in that spring game for the football team, playing tight end. It was cornerbacks handling him. He couldn't even get off the line.
Yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. And I think maybe Cowherd had something to do with that because, the Volume is Colin Cowherd's podcast network, and he's always caping up for Dre on his show. And so maybe he had something to do with that. Like, hey, go in there and make it sound good and all that. But, I mean, what irritates me about stuff like that is because you playing me like you think I'm stupid. And I'm not really a big fan of people doing that, and it's frustrating. It really is frustrating because I'm not stupid, and I think there's a lot of stupid people out there, but I also think that there's a lot of people who's like, come on, man, that's too much.
I like what Sneed said, man. Master of custodial arts, and I don't know what that actually means, but it sounds like it means what I've called him before. I said that he has. I actually said this about LeBron, but I said about Draymond too. I said he's majored in the minors, and when I say minor, I mean not points. That's the major stuff. But the minor things that you got to do, rebound, defense, toughness, those are things you pay a Charles Oakley to do, right? But Draymond Green is getting Paul George money.
He sure is.
Right, he's getting Paul George money. And Paul George puts the ball in the hole. Paul George can lead a team as a number one or number two, at the very least a number two. Draymond Green cannot lead your team as a number one or a number two. He can't lead your team, period. He's a side piece or a side dish. He can't be the main course. Yeah, I know custodian is janitor, but I'm just saying, I don't know how you meant it. I don't know if you meant that he's doing the minor work, but he's getting paid like he's doing the major work.
Yeah, so G says, and he's a modern day Charles Oakley. G, I don't even think he's that. I don't see that because Charles Oakley was legitimately tough. And he a legitimate. Draymond don't even rebound like Charles Oakley. Now that said, I got a little technical issue there. You hear me, Mel?
Yeah, I can hear you. You just your camera just went off. But yeah, you were saying Charles Oakley is well, you know what? I will say, if you take away the toughness part, okay, you say Charles Oakley is a real tough guy. Okay, cool. But as far as what they do on the court, I think Charles Oakley and Draymond Green do some very similar things for their team, except Charles Oakley was just a paint player and Draymond Green has has point guard skills as far as his passing vision and ball handling. So that set him apart. So he's a mix of Charles Oakley and Anthony Mason. But I think Anthony Mason can score better than him, though.
Here's my thing, though. I think obviously Draymond he's a better ball handler, and to G's point here, he can run an offense, and Oakley couldn't do that. But in terms of, I think Oakley is just as good a defender. I think Draymond is an overrated defender because of the era that he plays in. So when he talks about himself as being the best defender of all time, I'm like, man, you must be crazy. But I think Oakley is just as good a defender, a better defender, excuse me. He's a better rebounder. Now, he can't pass like Draymond or run an offense. I totally get that. But he didn't have an oversized mouth. But yeah, I think a lot of what Draymond gets is because of how blessed he was to get drafted into the situation into which he got drafted. And don't get me wrong, he has worked hard, but this is one of those guys that is going to end up in the Hall of Fame that I clearly don't believe deserves it. But the Basketball Hall of Fame is the worst in all of the major sports. That thing is.
Yeah, they're already saying he go get there. They already calling him a Hall of Famer.
I mean, he got 4 chips, and he was an important contributor in all 4 of them. So I mean, you know, he's been to the finals 6 times, 4 championships. So
yeah.
So that is what that is. But yeah, just to kind of put a bow on that, I think it's absolutely absurd that anybody would believe this nonsense that he just went on his podcast and told us. That was really disturbing. But you know what? If he was real with it, then we'll see if he can make it through the playoffs without doing anything stupid.
We'll see.
We'll see. All right. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and skip the calls on this section, unless, of course, anybody wants to do that. You know what? I'll put it up there. 904-219-8264. 904-219-8264. You can call in, give your thoughts on Draymond Green and whether or not you believe what he had to say on his podcast with Clay. And so what I'll do while that's going, I'm gonna go ahead and move to the next topic. If you still want to call in, go ahead and do that, and we'll get back to the previous topic. So next up, the Bucks, the Milwaukee Bucks. This was a team that was supposed to contend for the East when the season started. Well, even before the season started, when they made the big offseason trade and brought in Damian Lillard from Portland. And I was one of the people, when I saw that, I said, whoa, this could be really dangerous. This could be arguably the best 1-2 punch in the league, inside, outside. You got Giannis with his physicality. You got Dame with his skill. I thought that could be really, really dangerous. But it turns out that for whatever reason, it's not quite working the way it should have. To me, it started off weird because what were they, 30-13 when Adrian Griffin got fired? Yep. And for the life of me, I have no idea why Adrian Griffin got fired. From some of the stuff that was reported, obviously I wasn't there, I didn't do the reporting, but from some of the stuff that was reported, Giannis, I guess, didn't like the way Adrian Griffin was going about things. There's reports that Griffin would call plays and Giannis would just wave it off and do whatever he wanted to do, which really surprised me because you never kind of get that vibe about Giannis, or maybe it's just been hidden all this time. I don't know. And then obviously Doc Rivers, aka Glenn the consultant, he was consulting for the team at the time, and then they offered him the job. He took the job, and I guess the thought was that Doc Rivers, the guy who has gotten more run out of one championship than anybody in the history of the game, they thought that he would be able to unlock Giannis and Dame and take it to the next level, but it hasn't worked that way. So what I'm going to ask you, Mel, why do you think it hasn't worked that way? And before you answer, offensively, it seems like they haven't figured out. This is a team that has 6 players scoring in double figures, 5 with more than 12 points a game. Giannis at 30-12, I think, or 30-11 on the year. Dame is getting 24 and 7 assists. Why do you think this isn't working?
Because they got a superstar with limited scoring or limited skills offensively. Mm-hmm. And when you have your best player or your star player or your superstar player with limited skills offensively, you have to have a special team around him. You have to run a special offense with special role players around him, right? And when you're a one-man show, your flaws are not going to show up that much. But when you go from a one-man show to adding other superstar pieces to it, the more the flaws will show up. And right now, what's going on, without looking at the numbers for Giannis, right now, what's going on is he don't have another game to go to that can mesh and fit well with Dame Lillard. Giannis's game was spread offense, 5-man out, Giannis with the ball at the top of the key and getting a screen and going downhill and being a force going to the rim. Right now, how do you mesh that with a point guard who wants the ball so he can dictate and do things as well? So now what do you do when Dame has the ball? What do you do with this star player in Giannis? Because he got to get downhill and he needs 5-man out offense, right? So right now you're seeing the growing pains of trying to figure out, man, how are we going to get Giannis to be Giannis when he can't give me any value without the ball, and he's not going to go in the post and do work like Tim Duncan? What am I going to do with him? Right. And that's the issue. And they might be able to still get their numbers when they want to get their numbers, but it's not leading to winning. Right. So I don't believe anything numbers wise if it doesn't lead to actual winning. And they're actually playing good enough basketball to make the playoffs and be a top 3 seed in the East right now and all that stuff. But you can tell it's not really
it doesn't fit.
Yeah, it's not championship basketball.
Mm-hmm. And so this is a team where I think, to your point, they don't play well together. And I think you're right about that. There's times Dame can go off because we know he just has that capability to go off. And obviously Giannis. But what's weird to me is that, and we talked about this a little bit before we got on here, is that Giannis made it a point and has made it a point all year to talk about this is Dame's team and blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, okay, if this is Dame's team, then why is it that you're not stepping back off of your numbers, other than obviously if you continue to rebound and play defense, that's cool. But why are you not taking the ball out of your hands some more as, the main ball handler, facilitator, when you have a point guard there in Dame? Why are you not taking less shots? Because Dame's numbers have decreased and he's the more skilled of the two players. Meanwhile, Giannis is still getting his, but it's not helping in the winning department. So why has he not made that adjustment? You would have thought that he would have, especially given everything that he was saying prior to the season and throughout the season about it being Dame's team now.
He was just saying it to make Dame comfortable, and
right.
And so Dame won't come over here and feel like he needs to acquiesce or play less of himself. He just wanted him to be himself. And you got to give them that confidence that, hey, look, I'm not trying to step on your toes. You can do your thing. But Giannis is a straightforward go type player, man. So you can't get a player that's like Russell Westbrook or Giannis and tell them not to go.
Mm-hmm.
That's all he knows is go. And that's how he got MVPs and turned into a max player is by being foot on the pedal, foot on the gas the whole time. So you can't tell him not to put his foot on the gas.
So, okay, obviously you can't do this every time, but I mean, you're Doc Rivers. You can't come up with some offensive schemes that Giannis is, to your point, a go, a downhill guy. You can't P&R, get him lobs at the rim, right? get him stuff going downhill in the pick and roll with an elite point guard like Dame. Obviously, he's not going to pick and pop, but he can pick and roll. You can get back, you can get lobs. Like, there's a lot of stuff I would think that you could do.
You underestimating how limited his bag is, man. I'm telling you, some guys' game is better suited for solo act. Like Iverson's game, as good as it was, it didn't fit well with Melo in Denver. Chauncey Billups actually fit better with Melo than Iverson did. Iverson is a solo act because he has only one mode, which is go. And I had to be going all the time in order for you to get the best of me. You got to put me around pieces that's okay with me just doing everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And Giannis is probably one of those players, man. The better talent around him, the less of him that he can be. He needs to be on go where everyone is dependent on him. And, sometimes less is more for a player like that. I mean, imagine Alonzo Mourning being your point forward. That's what Giannis is.
That's an odd analogy. I never would have thought of that. I had somebody before say that Giannis is a modern day Bo Outlaw. I was like, that's
Nah, I give him so. I give him so.
But I mean, I don't know if Giannis was to say, or Doc Rivers was to get Giannis to say, okay, most people already have you as a Hall of Fame guy, for whatever reason, basketball Hall of Fame again. But most people have you as a Hall of Fame guy. You're a champion. If you bring Dame in here and you can scale it back some, and we can win more championships, how do you think that's going to make you look? Because Giannis never struck me as a dude who was about numbers. And to that point, like, yeah, good.
No, I'm listening.
No, I was just saying, to that point, Giannis, we know he's one of the ultimate hustle boxes, right? So you hit the glass, you play that defense, you do all those things. You can still get lobs. You can still, nobody's saying that you got to go down to 15 points a game, but if you come down from 30 to about 24, and now Dame can do more of his thing, you can be more dangerous, and that team can be better, and you will have much more of an opportunity to try and win that championship. Because Dame doesn't want to be there anyway. He wants to be in Miami. So all you're doing is greasing the skids for him to, work on trying to get out of there anyway. So, like, how is that helping you?
I don't know. I have no clue, but I know something ain't right in there.
Yeah.
Something ain't right.
Right.
But despite that, they was in the number 2 seed in the East for a while. I think they might be number 3 now, because I think Orlando actually is moving up on the rankings.
Yeah,
that's possible. That's possible,
especially in the East. Maybe not so much in the West, because the West is tough. Maybe in the East, but I think the other part is, though, maybe they're coasting into playoffs, but don't you want to be in your best form going into the toughest part of the year, or is that just the way it is now? I don't know.
Maybe they mind is on figuring out what Doc's system is, and hey, look, we'll go through the growing pains now. It's okay to make mistakes now, because right now they was in the spot where they're not going to catch Boston for the number 1 seed.
No.
And there was a little comfortable at the number 2 seed, but Orlando is on their heels. So maybe they was looking at it that way, man. Like, what's the worst that can happen? We can still get home court advantage. We're fine. Let's just go through these growing pains, and they might be running sets that Doc trying to put in, and they might not be really familiar with, but all of it condensed down in the playoffs.
Yeah. But if that's the case, right? And you're talking about how limited Giannis's game is. I'm saying, okay, even if that's the case, if you're Doc, why are you trying to put in a whole bunch of new stuff that he probably would need a long time to get a hold of?
You said, why would he do that?
Yeah, why would he do that? Especially now going into, you would think, if that's the case, Doc, you've been around this for a long time, you've been a coach for a long time, simplify it for Giannis.
If you go move in with a woman, are you going to keep all the same rules her last man had, or you go come in and implement your own?
Oh, definitely.
Definitely. You come in and be like, oh, this is what Tim used to keep his toolbox. Okay, I'm gonna put mine right there too. You know what I mean? Nah, it ain't gonna be like that, man. You go come in and you go put your imprint on there the way you want to put your imprint on there. You can't come in and coach somebody else's system. You know what I mean? So you know yours like the back of your hand. So that's how you got to go with it.
Well, I don't necessarily mean coaching somebody else's system, but using some of the stuff that has made him comfortable and allowed him to have success, and you integrate it with yours. But trying to put in a whole new thing that he might not be ready for.
Sometimes you got to be uncomfortable as a superstar. Right? If you too comfortable, you ain't growing. So yeah, sometimes you got to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's fair enough. All right, what I want to do now is we're gonna leave that there. Anybody wants to call in, I'm gonna put the number back up. Definitely would love to hear from you on this topic. What's wrong with Giannis? What's going on with the Bucks? How can Doc Rivers make this work with Dame? That's 904-219-8264. 904-219-8264. Give me a call.
Man, this Kalen Clark topic is
Yeah, I think that
is everywhere, man.
Oh yeah. And I tell you what, they are doing their best, and we'll talk about it next. They're doing their best to roll that thing over to the WNBA. We'll definitely talk about it.
Yeah, for sure. They just signed Drew Holiday to an extension. Dang, boy, the Bucks looking over there like, man, we could still have it, man. Sheesh.
Right. All right, what we're gonna do, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna move on to the next and final topic for the night. And we're going to talk about Caitlin Clark, and is she the GOAT of women's college basketball? And so we're getting a whole lot of different thoughts on that coming up. People saying that the other female players, other WNBA players, other former college women's players, they're jealous and this, that, and the third. And Caitlin Clark has been amazing. She has rewritten the record books. To some extent, I guess depends on how you look at it.
Yeah.
Right. And we can talk about that a little bit, but I guess we saw her do amazing things. And for me, one of the most amazing things is the fact that last year in the national championship game, they set a women's college basketball record for views. And then this year, the rematch against LSU in the Elite Eight, they set another with 12 million views. And then what was it? The following weekend in the Final Four, they set another record with 14 million. And then after that, in the national championship game where Iowa and Caitlin Clark lost to undefeated South Carolina, another record, 18 million plus views, which was the highest viewed basketball game, men or women of any level, in the last 5 years. That's crazy. And Caitlin Clark is obviously a big part of that. The way she plays, a lot of people say that she's reminiscent of a female Steph Curry, and everything that she's done has led to the question now, is she the GOAT of women's college basketball? And for me, I think that's a pretty simple answer. That's a resounding no. As great as she is, and as much excitement and life that she's breathed into the women's college game, to me, it's very, very simple. And the question is this: in what sport can we call someone the GOAT without having won a championship? Like, it just doesn't happen. Because
it doesn't.
I think that's a big part of being the GOAT, is winning. Because at the end of the day, that's what you do. It's all about it's all about actually, why are you out there competing, right? You're out there, like Herm said, to win the game. That's what it's about. And so you can't be the GOAT if you didn't get a chip. That doesn't mean you're not an all-time great player, but you can't be the greatest of all time without that. Imagine somebody trying to say they're better than Michael Jordan. They never won anything. Not anything, but they never won a championship. It just doesn't make sense. Oh, there you go. I just got the Drew Holiday news. 4 years, 135. Wow.
Yeah.
Hey.
Which is crazy because they just gave Brown that crazy money last summer.
Mm-hmm.
And they still have to sign Tatum.
Yeah. Hey. But anyway, Caitlin Clark, what are your thoughts on the women's college basketball GOAT argument?
I got a lot of thoughts on that. This is the first thought, and I apologize because I gotta kind of break this down. So this is the first thought. First and foremost, do you remember ever having a conversation or debating the college GOAT ever?
No.
Not men or women. No one has ever debated the college GOAT, especially not for men where the best players leave after 1 year or 2 years. Right? Not the best players don't stay for 4 years. The 4-year players are the Shane Battiers and the JJ Reddicks. You rarely get the Tim Duncan that stayed for 4 years. So the best players are leaving. So as far as, all right, let's look at how much they won. Well, if I only stayed for 1 or 2 years and you stayed for 4 and you won 1 and I won 1, or you won 2, like, how are we measuring that? Like right now, if you go and look at the top scores in the ACC, guess what number Jordan is? He's past 50.
Okay.
Right. The number 1 scorer in the ACC history is Tyler Hansbrough. Number 2 is JJ Redick. Why?
Yep, that's right.
Because they both played 4 years. Michael Jordan is at number 50 or below that. He might be closer to 80. He's nowhere near it. right? So, and that's for a couple of reasons. Number one,
I think he also didn't have threes early on in his college
they
career.
didn't
Right?
have threes. No, they didn't have threes
There you
until he got to the NBA. I think it came 81, 82 or whatever. So, um, just even trying to find out a GOAT and use the same metrics that we use in the NBA, we're going to be using team success, how many times you won, how great you were as a player, and we're going to measure your greatness probably based off your stats and all that stuff. And the great ones just don't stay alone. They don't stay on the team long enough to even compile those stats, right? So that's already out of the, for me, it's already a wash. There's no such thing as a college GOAT, men or women, right? Now, if you want to entertain the conversation, yeah, women, what's up, Zoe? Women, they can't leave as freshmen or sophomores, so they got to at least stick around for 3 years. So that's even more of a better conversation. So let's talk about what we measure GOAT with in NBA history, right? For me, the first thing I got to look at is how good you are as a player. I'm not going to have someone in the GOAT debate with, in my mind, if the current GOAT is a better player than you, because the current GOAT is a better player than most players I've seen, or all players I've seen. He's accomplished more than anybody else except Bill Russell and Kareem, right? As far as winning, right? And he has the stats to back up and support if I say he's a better player than someone, right? I mean, if you can't tell that by looking at it, then I can at least go to the stats, right? So he has all the legs you need, both ends of the floor. Great player offensively, defensively, team success, winning, and then the stats are back it up as well. And then when you look at Caitlin, and then the impact on basketball and changing the game is all there. Right? When you look at Caitlin, she don't have the winning. She's not the best basketball player I ever seen.
Right.
She don't right. She's not elite on both ends, in my opinion. And she do have a crazy great impact like a GOAT would, but that's where it stops. Your impact, you impacted the game so much because you put up great points and you did some things that other players wasn't capable of doing, and sometimes they were capable of doing it but wasn't allowed to do it. It was a conversation with Diana Taurasi and Sue Bird. And,
I heard that. That's right.
When they said, "Hey, do you think Gino would ever let us pull up from 30-foot 3-pointer?" And she said, "Absolutely not. Gino would not allow that."
Right.
You get that? So you get on a team that's actually running offense, a team that got other All-Americans, where we're not going to let you come down and be a one woman show and everyone is just there to set screens for you and catch and shoot threes. That's not what it's all about. So that's how you get those numbers. So the numbers are kind of inflated, and the impact is great. You got that, but that's only one thing you got. You got numbers and you got impact, no winning, and you're not the best player I've ever seen. So, I mean, it's going to be hard if I did try to have that conversation, which I really wouldn't seriously have it. But if I did entertain it, no, it'll be with somebody that's a better player, in my opinion.
Yeah. And so of the players currently playing in the women's college game, I think there's a couple who got a legitimate shot, if they play all 4 years and at doing this thing. And obviously, Juju Watkins from USC is just an absolute problem. She's so smooth. I think the only thing with her is just a little better understanding of the collegiate level game and better shot selection, because I think she's at like 40%. And she had some really bad shooting nights. I think in the Pac-12 championship, she was like 9 for 25 or 9 for 30 or something like that. But once she gets a hold of that, and that'll also come with, more recruiting, bringing in players that will assist in taking a little bit of the defensive attention away. But I think she's a monster. Hannah Hidalgo from Notre Dame is another animal. I think she was third in the country in scoring as a true freshman. So we are really seeing some young ladies that can go, man. But then even still in that GOAT discussion, we got to look backwards as we generally do in sports with a GOAT discussion, right? And a bunch of them seem to be from UConn and Tennessee, right? But you have your Breanna Stewarts, I think, 4-time champion, 3-time player of the year, if I'm not mistaken.
That's crazy.
Four-time most outstanding player in the tournament, like Final Four MOP. Crazy. Maya Moore, I think, 2-time champion, 2-time Wade Award winner. Obviously, Cheryl Miller, the first truly big name women's player. Obviously, I don't want to just relegate her to Reggie Miller's sister, but for those that don't really know the women's game as well, and I'm not claiming to be an authority on the women's game, but Reggie Miller's older sister, Cheryl, she was, quick story about Cheryl Miller. So Reggie, he likes to tell the story. His first big game in high school, Cheryl and his dad come to pick him up. He gets in the car, he's feeling himself, and they're like, "Hey, Reg, how'd your game go?" He said, "I'm feeling good. How'd you do?" "I got 40. "Oh, that's great, Reg. That's great." So he said, "Well, how'd you do?" And he's like, Cheryl and her dad, they just looking at each other. What would you get? 60? They're just looking at each other. 105. so right. So Cheryl, she was out there like Wilt, you know what I'm saying? Just insane, unheard of numbers. Now, in the defense of Caitlin Clark and all the others who may be in the women's GOAT conversation, I think Cheryl Miller won like 3 championships in college also. She had a heck of a team. She had Cynthia Cooper on that team, JaVale McGee, his mother Pam McGee, and his aunt. I can't remember the aunt's name, but they're twin sisters, I believe. So you had the McGees, you had Cheryl Miller, and you had Cynthia Cooper. So I can't even imagine what they was doing to the teams they ran up against.
Yeah.
And so there have been a lot of incredible women's players. It's just they haven't been getting the attention, obviously, because they didn't play the way Caitlin plays. Some of them played before the 3-point line. And obviously the media attention wasn't there the same way. Even coming forward a little bit, you got Shamika Holtzclaw at Tennessee. I think she won 2 or 3 championships and was an absolute beast of a player. I think she was Rookie of the Year in the WNBA, won a championship there. So, there's a
She was a problem. She was a problem.
She was
a problem. Man.
Oh yeah, I remember her. I remember seeing her play.
I've never watched the women's game and seen someone separate themselves from everybody on the court so much, like Cynthia Cooper in the WNBA and like Shamika Holtzclaw did in college. They separated themselves. Now, Maya Moore might be a better player than Shamika.
That's the one for me.
Stewart might be a better player, but when I was watching them play, I didn't see that separate. Like Shamika was like, I was like, man, she don't belong. Like she's better than everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was a little bit more even when, and that might've been because how Gino coached, she didn't, wasn't unleashed like that.
Yeah.
It could have been that, but man, you're naming some names, man. Maya Moore, Shamika Holtzclaw, Cheryl Miller, Cynthia Cooper.
Yeah.
Them some names right there.
Well, I'll tell you, Cynthia Cooper, as much as she was a beast, even in the WNBA, remember she was playing with Cheryl Swoops, so that helps a whole.
Oh, and Cheryl Swoops too.
Yeah, that helps.
And they had Tina Thompson, man. Tina Thompson wasn't no slouch either.
That's right. Yeah.
That was unfair. How did they even get that team together, man? That was unfair.
That's a great question. They won 4 straight chips to start off the WNBA's existence.
Man.
And
the WNBA was really, actually, it felt like the WNBA was really good then after the Rockets went away and Cynthia Cooper retired. That's when it took that dip. But you know what else happened around that same time? The WNBA games was on NBC, just like the NBA was.
That's right.
And for some reason, I don't know what the NBA thought, but they thought it was a good idea to put the WNBA on the Lifetime channel because that was the women's channel. So they had a contract with Lifetime, and I was like, I don't go to Live. That's when I started because I was watching the WNBA every time it came on.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
They did a good job of marketing. They had Rebecca Lobo and Lisa Leslie was like, oh man, one in New York, one in LA, and they did that pretty good, and they marketed it really good. Now, when we was ready for it and we was watching it, and when it left NBC for Lifetime, I lost track of it. I couldn't find out when the games was on, and it was a disaster after that.
Right. So quick story. When I lived in New York, and I used to work at the Big Foot Action store on 34th and 8th Avenue, which is a block over from Madison Square Garden. And so I was there, and Teresa Weatherspoon was playing for the Liberty at the time. So she comes in, and I was helping her out. And she's like, hey, watch basketball? Yeah. Watch women's basketball? I'm cool with it. Says, okay, I'll leave you 2 tickets in the box at the Garden for the game. I said, okay, cool. The Rockets were in town. So me and my wife went. At the time we weren't married yet, my girl. But so we went over, we watched the game, and somewhere around here I actually got a picture with me, my wife, and Cheryl Swoops.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah, that we got to go down there and take a picture with her after the game. So that was pretty cool. That was my little WNBA memory from early on. So yeah. But man, so back to Caitlin Clark. I don't think it's throwing any shade at Caitlin Clark to say that she's not the GOAT, but she has done tremendous things for the women's game.
Correct.
And realistically, I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna tell you that I don't watch a ton of WNBA, almost none, but I will be tuning in the first game she plays against Diana Taurasi.
And what if? And what if? Well, first of all, Diana Taurasi's 41, and she missed most of the season last year for a toe injury. So I don't expect Diana Taurasi to be giving her no hell.
Well, I'm just looking at it based on the commentary that she made, and
that'd be fun. But yeah. Are you prepared to not see her actually strive this season?
Yes, because I think based on a lot of the attention she has gotten, I think they're going to go hard at her when she gets into the league. And
not even that though. How long did it take Steph to become Steph when he was with Golden State?
Right, and that was the other thing I was going to go towards. We're not sure, is Indiana going to allow her to just do whatever she wants to do? Like Lisa Bluter allowed her to do whatever she wants to do. She's probably going to have to play. This is professional ball now within a little more structure. Not saying that Iowa played with no structure, but, it was the Caitlin Clark show. And so we're going to see what she's allowed to do. And what I will say, because of the threat of the elite shooter that she is, she's a willing and outstanding passer. And I think that's going to be really, really beneficial at the next level. And it's not just, I mentioned this before on an earlier segment, it's not just drive and kick. It's actually, you get the interior passing. Like, she's got court vision on the fast break. She's always getting the ball up the floor. Like, that's something I notice a lot. Really good with the outlet passes. So it's not just, drive and kick, which is like the lazy thing that everybody does in basketball now, but she is a legitimately good passer. And I like that. And I think that should translate well to the next level, because how do you endear yourself to your teammates? Even if you can score and you can shoot it, get them the ball, because they're going to be more willing to get it back to you and allow you to do your thing.
And Aaliyah Boston plays for the Indiana Fever, correct?
I didn't even realize that.
She was that top pick last season, okay. And now they get Caitlin, and Aaliyah Boston is a post player. She's not gonna be just setting screens for her and standing at the 3-point line. So that's what. So if Indiana want to market Caitlin Clark and the WNBA want to market Caitlin Clark, and they want her to come out here and average 22 points, 25 points a game or whatnot, what they're gonna have to do is go find a coach that want to coach her the way they did at Iowa. And if I was them, I would fire the Indiana coach now and hire Bluter. Yeah. If her contract's up, hey, come on in. I give him a chance this year. Mm-hmm. If it doesn't work out like I want it to, I would bring Bluter in when her contract is up to coach the Fever and coach Caitlin.
I never considered that. I think one of the bigger things too, the WNBA, and I'm sure they're smarter than people than me in that league office, it needs to do in order to push this thing, is to try to market the Angel Reese Caitlin Clark rivalry and make it some sort of along the lines of, Magic and Bird, in terms of trying to utilize that to revitalize the league. I think
it would be smart, but not responsible as adults. I mean, we did not need it. Seriously, man. I'm so tired. I'm so glad that I'm so glad college basketball is over right now, because social media was toxic with white, black, Reese versus Caitlin. I mean, it was just toxic, man. I don't have the bandwidth mentally to deal with that for a whole. No, I ain't no way, man.
You know what? That's a great point, because if there was social media in the Magic and Bird era, that could have been real ugly. I never thought about that.
All we had was newspapers back then.
Right. We look at it as that was a beautiful era of basketball that helped bring the NBA and make it what we fell in love with. But when you mentioned that, I hadn't even considered, like, oh my gosh, that could have been really, really terrible.
Yeah, it's not cool. It's not cool. But yeah, you're right. It'd be smart for them to play on that a little bit, because they got butts and seats. But I mean, in order for it to work, Caitlin has to be winning in order to pique that interest. Because if people that support Caitlin can't come and champion her and see her taking down some of the greats in the league. Oh man, she took down Diana, and Diana Taurasi had all this to say about her. Oh, she took down Stewart and all these UConn girls, and then the black-white thing. She took down Reese and whoever the black stars are. She's taking them down. If they can't feel pride about her beating all of them, it's not gonna have the same sting. If she's a rookie and she's still getting her numbers and she's playing and hitting 30-foot threes like she did in college, but they're losing, which is more than likely going to happen. Right. This is a team that got the #1 pick, so they're not that good. Right. So if she's losing, they're not going to be able to poke you in the eye on social media and say, look at that girl taking y'all down. They're not going to be able to do that. So yeah, it's going to be a rude awakening.
Well, I will say this is probably the first time maybe ever that I'm going to preseason look at the WNBA schedule, because there are some matchups I want to see. I want to see her play against Ionescu with the New York Liberty. I want to see her play against Kelsey Plum with the Aces, Asia Wilson. I want to see some of these matchups. I want to see what she can do and how it can go. So definitely looking forward to some of those. And also, I think the last thing I'll have on this, if they're smart, NBA All-Star Weekend, just like they did Sabrina and Steph, you do obviously, if she's playing well at that point, you do Sabrina and Caitlin, Steph and Clay, or Steph and Dame, or whoever it is you want to use as your 3-point, and you do that competition again. Because I'm not a big, I mean, we know how bad the NBA All-Star Weekend was this past year, but the best event for me was watching Steph and Sabrina Ionescu in a 3-point shootout.
I didn't even watch it.
It was good.
I bet it was. I didn't even watch. Well, I didn't watch really anything for the All-Star, but I tried to watch the game just if
I tried to. It was.
Yeah, I watched the game just for podcast purposes. But if it wasn't for the podcast, I would never watch All-Star at all.
Right.
But this is the last thing I say on this though, Bruce. I think it's time, if the NBA really want to do right by the WNBA, it's time for them to not have them offset season and have them parallel where everything is during the same time frame. Like that way you can easily market it. I can come to TNT and see a WNBA game as like a not the main event, but what you call the people, the front, not the frontliners, but
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Undercard.
Yeah. Right. We can have the WNBA right before we had the NBA game. You get what I'm saying? And I think that'd be dope. I think that'd be real dope.
Odd time frame though, and then you lose that West Coast demographic, because on the East Coast you have most of the games start at 7:30, right? So if you have the WNBA playing right before that, what's that game going to start at? 4:30 in the afternoon on the East Coast, 1:30 in the afternoon on the West Coast. Like, people got to work on the West Coast. It's going to be tough in terms of viewership.
Well, it gives them an opportunity to spread some of the NBA games out a little bit more instead of you having a back-to-back tonight. Like if you're like right now, the Clippers and the Phoenix Suns playing again tonight. They played last night, right? Instead of having that back-to-back, this would be a night that you have a WNBA game with some other team, and then Phoenix can play tomorrow. The Lakers, you get to spread it out a little bit.
Right.
So they can work it with the scheduling where it won't be overlapping and you got to have one and then 3 more games. Just have 1 and then 2 more games, a WNBA and 2 NBA games instead of WNBA and 3 NBA games. Well, they can work it. If they really wanted to be smart, I would do that.
Well, I don't know why they wouldn't, be in that they have spent money year after year after year, and the WNBA is still in the red. So like I don't know.
It's in the red because that makes them bad businessmen. It ain't because the product's bad. It's because they're not marketing properly. I still don't know what channel they play on. But if you look at it, middle school,
I think they play ESPN.
Middle school, the varsity boys and girls, they played the same day. Same thing in high school. Same thing in college. Well, not in college. They don't play the same day, but they on the same season. And then you all of a sudden get professional and say, let's do one doing the winter and the other one starting in summer. No, that's not cool.
Yeah. Touche. All right. Well, I'm gonna leave it there. I don't think we're gonna get into any calls on that, but I think that was a great discussion. Yeah, really, really enjoyed talking about that. Before I let you get out of here, Mel, let all the people know where to find you.
Man Down Sports on YouTube, and you can also find us on IG and X. Man Down Sports for IG, I think is Man Down P, because it used to be Man Down Podcast. Man Down P on X, and Man Down Sports on TikTok.
There you go. All right, man. Well, thanks so much for joining us, man. I really appreciate it. Always love to have you on and share your insight on on the game that we both love. Wish the game, at least at the NBA level, could be better, but we'll see what happens going forward.
All right, brother.
All right.
Yep.
And I'm out. Peace.